Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me.
Good morning. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, KSQD 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. I am Catherine Bell, and this is the Dream Journal, a weekly show where we explore the healing powers of your nighttime dreams through conversations with dreams experts and with you. In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Do you want to make your own brain a warm, safe haven? Today we have a conversation with neuroscience educator Sarah Peyton. Sarah integrates brain science and the use of resonance to heal trauma and nourish self-warmth with exquisite gentleness. I am Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a podcast, so you can look for that on all your regular podcast places, or you can find it on the KSQD webpage. That's ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. So I'm going to start with my personal dream work. Let's take a minute, give me a chance to drop in. So this is a dream where I am standing in my friend's vineyard, which is a place that we go walking pretty frequently. In fact, we're going there today. And I look up on the hill above us, and I see two trees that are burning, like big, tall trees that are kind of isolated, and they're just burning. There's something flaming, but it's not scary. After all my fire dreams after the evacuations and the fires of August and all that, maybe there's something that's shifting for me, because in this dream it's just a thing of awe and beauty that the fire is consuming these two large trees. I don't feel any sense of danger, any sense of where it's going to spread to the forest nearby or anything. So I just can picture myself there with my friend and our dogs. Our dogs are running around with us, and the fire's just burning. So, is there something in me that's burning? This is just one of those lovely dreams that I don't need to understand it. I just need to feel it. And I find that this image just keeps rising up before me in the last week or two since I've had this dream. So I wanted to share it with you. Today, as usual, I am inviting call-ins during the last 20 minutes of the show, so you'll be able to call in at that point. You might want to jot the number down right now. That number is 831-900-5773. That's 900-KSQD. You can share a dream or ask a question. Save that number and you can call in about 33 minutes. That number again is 831-900-5773. Okay, welcome, Sarah.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Okay, glad to have you today. Would you like to introduce yourself? This is Sarah Peyton.
Thank you. You did a little bit of an introduction for me that I'm a neuroscience educator. What I really find interesting is the way that accompanying one another changes our brains. This is the focus of everything that I learn and study and the research that I track. The way that we actually have an effect on each other, and the way that we can actually have an effect on each other's dreams. So I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm very interested in neuroscience and the way the brains and the way that our brains affect our experience of reality, since we don't really know anything except for what we experience through our senses, and everything is filtered and magnified through our senses. And there's a huge part of experience of being human that involves talking inside of my head. This is one thing I've noticed, that these voices inside my head, they're sometimes very helpful and often very helpful, but sometimes they can be quite mean. And I was very impressed in reading your website, and then I had a caller recommended you to me to check out as a possible guest, and I was very thrilled to get that recommendation. And looking at your webpage, I realized you're an NVC facilitator, nonviolent communication, which is something that I also have studied quite a bit over the years, found extremely helpful. And I listened, I've just been fascinated by one of the ways that you use your NVC is applying it to your inner voices. Our own inner voices could use some empathy and compassion sometimes because they're not the most polite.
It's so true. My inner voice, preparing for the call was like, what are you doing? Why don't you understand these things better? What's going on here? You're not fast enough. You're not good enough. You should have started 3 days ago. And so, there's like a way to respond to that. I always like to say it's not truth, it's trauma when it comes to our inner voices.
Oh, well, say more about that. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, that our automatic voice, this is so beautiful that you've begun with this because, of course, it takes us directly into dreams.
Yeah.
But the inner voice is something that the scientists call the default mode network. And the default mode network is this entire integrative force that's dedicated to bringing the different parts of our life together and kind of sewing us into our own lives. And whenever we stop doing something deliberate with our brain, so say doing an algebra problem, that's a deliberate use of the brain, or trying to figure out what you're going to make for dinner, that's a deliberate use of the brain. But there's lots of things we do where it's you're not having to use your brain much at all, like taking a shower or transferring data or trying to figure out, how to, just like driving, in a familiar place. All of those moments are openings for the automatic voice of the brain to begin to speak. And sometimes, depending on how much trauma we've lived through, that inner voice can be very lacerating and critical. And the more trauma we've lived through without accompaniment, without warmth, without resonance, the more the inner voice has scalpels of cruelty to cut us with.
It's not truth, it's trauma. I find that, I am someone who has, I have, very small traumas along the way, but I would not say I have any big T traumas in my life. And yet my inner voice has in the past been very mean to me. And I think, part of that is keeping myself in line. And like, that was always very important in my family culture and just in my mind. That was my interpretation of my family culture. And you said something that a while ago in one of the pieces that I was listening to, which really struck me, is that there are many of us who grow up with parents who are not traumatizing. In other words, they're not traumatizing us emotionally or physically or sexually or anything like that, but the parents themselves are traumatized. That they've lived through their trauma, and that gets passed on to us as a sort of a perception that the world is not safe.
Also, we model our parents' brains.
Oh,
so
really?
So if the way that our mom treated herself was with cruelty, then even if she's not cruel to us, we internalize the cruelty that she carries for herself.
Wow, I'm just getting a wave of a really intense feeling right now, Sarah. That really touches something in me that if my parents treated themselves cruelly, I'm thinking of my mom who was treated cruelly as a child, she was abused, that she treats herself cruelly, and I pick that up from her, and there's like something about truth in that for me.
It's one of the ways that we transmit transgenerational trauma. People talk about epigenetic transmission, but we also sort of have this very simple way of transmitting transgenerational trauma by modeling our brains on our parents' brains.
Right. Well, there's a book I've been reading. It's a little outdated at this point, called The General Theory of Love. I don't know if you're familiar with this book.
I love that book.
Yeah. And the authors talk a lot about our limbic brains and how our limbic limbic brains kind of sync up with each other, and that we mirror each other. There's something that we hear about called mirror neurons, where we actually mirror the people that we're with, but I never thought about the actual brain patterns down to the default mode network is something that we would pick up from our parents.
Yes, it's quite extraordinary. And the replication is greatest between mothers and daughters. We'll also replicate our father's brains, but the truest replication that the scientists see is between mothers and daughters.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Wow, I'm feeling some tenderness come up there. All right. And so that's really helpful. And you have this. There's an NVC technique called empathy guesses.
Yes.
Which I was really struck by, and thinking about my own inner voices, and that when my inner voices are mean to me, like it doesn't really help me to be mean back to them, right? I mean, it doesn't work in waking life. It doesn't work with among people.
It just ends up in knockdown, drag-out fights that culminate in depression.
Exactly. All right, but then is there a way that I can even give an empathy guess to my own cruel thoughts, like you're really wanting this to go well today, and that sort of
exactly. That's perfect. And they're trying to take care of us, even when they want to obliterate us, they're trying to take care of us. Sometimes I have an inner voice that says, Sarah, you should not even be alive. And I'm like, cruel inner voice, I wonder if you imagine that if we were dead, there would be peace.
Right.
Would you love peace? And the inner voice gets in a dialogue with me, and that's always very good. It's very good to be in a dialogue with your inner voice, which is what's so beautiful about your dream work, is you're really inviting people into dialogue with these inner voices.
Right.
So the inner voice says back, yes, you're hopeless. You're hopeless.
Yeah.
And then you can say, oh, inner voice, have you been trying so hard for so many years to take care of Sarah? And is she a little untakecareable?
Right.
Yeah, you can just go on from there. It's like once we really integrate the idea that it's not truth, that the inner voice's lacerating tone of contempt is not truth, but rather trauma, either our generation or past generations, then we can start to have these really sweet dialogues with them, because we aren't thrown off by their intensity.
Right. Then we bring in some compassion to even to those cruel voices, and these techniques, these NVC techniques, are extremely powerful interpersonally. But I don't think I thought much about applying them intrapersonally, like in myself, inside myself.
That's the world I love so much. I love to think about making brains a good place to live.
Yeah. Say some more about that. We haven't. Maybe talk a little bit about your history and like how did you get called to work with the brains in this way, making your own brain a safe place and all that.
Well, my own brain was not a good place to live, And as soon as I started learning nonviolent communication, I was like, wow, this might be something that could change the inside of my brain. And then I started to have experiences of relaxation, which I had never had with any kind of therapy or anything. But this simple thing of people trying to guess my needs and name my feelings, it just really started to change things. At which point I became fascinated by relational neuroscience. I was like, what do the scientists learn about this? How's this happening? What's going on with my brain? And as I started to learn about it for myself, people asked me to speak and teach it, and it became like a snowball effect of excitement and brain change and sweetness that's culminated in a couple of books now. And yeah, it's quite a journey.
Yeah, right. Oh, where to go? I have so many different directions we could go in here. Well, it's very inspirational. I love that you call yourself a neuroscience educator, because there's a lot of really amazing research that has been done in the last 10 years and more. But certainly recently, there's a lot of breakthroughs. Another favorite book of mine is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which
it's a beautiful book.
Yeah, talks a lot about the brain structure, so Yeah, wow. So actually, why don't you say a few words about your book, and then we'll say lots more about it in the second segment. But why don't you introduce your book, and we'll talk about that topic.
Okay. My book's name is Your Resonant Self, and that's available through online booksellers, any of your favorite ones. And then there's a second book that's the Your Resonant Self workbook, which takes a whole nother view on the brain. And both of them together are kind of an encyclopedia of this relational neuroscience stuff and how to use it to make our brains better places. And the workbook will come out on May 25th, and it's available for pre-order now.
Okay.
On online booksellers.
Oh, wonderful.
Howells, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to play a little piece of music here, and I'll let everybody know that in about 20 minutes we will be opening up the phone, so you'll be able to call in at that point to 831-900-5773. That's 900-KSQD. You can share a dream you're curious about or ask a question. You are listening to The Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell, and our guest is Sarah Peyton. You are listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org.
Get your plane round. Run home, get you ready, get you fly now. Hey, let your honesty shine, shine, shine now. Don't like it shines on me. The only living boy in New York. The only living boy in New York.
K-Squid, many voices, one station. You're listening to The Dream Journal, and we are here live with Sarah Peyton. So, Sarah, let's talk some more about resonance. You have your book, Your Resonant Self. Tell me about resonance. What is that?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, a lot about these words, compassion and empathy, and I was noticing that I could have compassion and empathy for other people without them even knowing that I was having those experiences.
Right.
And I thought, what can we call it? Those moments that are kind of like even more beautiful, where you're having compassion or empathy for another person, and they really have the sense of like, yes, you understand me.
So it's actually like a relationship instead of just driving by somebody or seeing somebody on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I started to think about both resonance, in the outer world, in those moments where somebody says to us, yes, you say, is it like this for you? And they say, yes. And you go, oh, good. We've got resonance. And I started to think about how we can also do this with ourselves, with that default mode network, exactly this dialogue, that you're inviting listeners to step into. Create this dialogue where yourself says yes to you. I'm always surprised by how often my guesses for myself are wrong.
Oh my goodness! Could you give me an example?
Yeah. So if I'm like making an empathy guess for that critical inner voice that's going, why didn't you get all this done earlier? And I say, are you really irritated? Are you irritated at Sarah? Do you just want competency? And the inner voice says, no, I'm terrified.
Oh, I see. Right.
And you kind of get to go deeper with your own self, just as we go deeper with others when they actually respond with their truth. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's resonance with ourselves then, like you're saying, to really understand at a deeper level some of these voices even in our heads, and maybe even our own behavior. Like, I don't always act the way I wish I would, but if I can bring back some compassion for myself, it's like, well, I wish I had done better. I tried. I guess I was scared there, or I guess I whatever it was, to give myself compassion even for actions that I've taken that I regret.
Yeah, exactly. And the very wonderful thing about resonance is that this experience of being understood and accompanied either by our own, what I call resonating self-witness, or by another person who's serving as a witness for us, actually changes trauma. It changes difficult memory from being trauma into being life experience. On a brain level, anytime we have emotion, it means where we have an emotion that doesn't go away, where it resurfaces and resurfaces.
Right.
That emotion is talking to us about needing to be resonated with. It needs our attention, or it needs the attention of somebody else. And when the attention happens with that warm curiosity and inquiry, then the amygdala begins to relax. The amygdala is like the clearinghouse. It's a structure deep in the brain, and it's like a clearinghouse for the emotions that are arising for our bodies as we move through this world. So there can be kind of traffic jams of emotion in the amygdala. And what happens when there's resonance is the amygdala starts to calm. It's saying, oh my God, my messages are being received. The messages coming from the body are being received. And then what happens is another structure in the brain called the hippocampus gets to start contextualizing things. It gets to take the difficult memory and turn it into life experience. So I had an incredibly difficult experience when I was tiny of being in the public eye and crying and feeling so embarrassed. And when I became a grown-up and started trying to do the teaching that I do, I would become so terrified. And finally one day I put the two together, and my hippocampus went, oh, no wonder I've been always so terrified. And there was like a kind of a sense of a spinning around me, and everything fell into place. And I stopped being so terrified, but I couldn't have stopped being so terrified without the resonance of that moment of self-understanding.
Right. Yeah, this is this kind of reframing is something that dreams are really, really powerful at doing. And I think, the dreams, most of the dreams that we have in a given night, we don't remember because, we just don't. We're sleeping.
Yeah.
If you get one dream a night, that's fortunate. But you have 5 or 6 periods of dreams during the night. And I know that's an evolutionary fact of life that these dreams are valuable because all humans dream, all mammals dream. It's like evolutionarily, it's a very powerful phenomenon. And I have the kind of idea that dreams are like an emotional immune system, or they're part of the emotional immune system that are helping us reframe our present and our past. And so if we work with these dreams consciously when we're awake, then we get to deepen that healing, that evolution that's happening, evolving.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm curious to hear what your experience with dreams is. Like in this applying this resonance to dreaming.
Exactly. So when people often have dreams that are difficult or that leave them with an emotional kind of knot in their stomach or in turmoil, or dreams that are scary. And my question is always, what is it like if we bring accompaniment to the dreamer? What happens if we kind of time travel into the dream itself, into the difficult moments of the dream itself, and bring our resonating witness with us? And begin to create this dialogue.
Right. Man, Sarah, we're on such the same page. I feel like I'm jumping up and down here because one of my real passions about working with dreams is to find those witnesses, find those connections in our dreams, and that there's often these helpful figures that we pretty typically will blow right by them. And then as a dream coach, I bring the dreamer back and like, did you notice, that travel agent was there kind of offering you a new ticket and, whatever it was, and just slow down and like take a moment to let her be with you. And sometimes we can even take those connections, those supportive moments to more difficult dream times when we feel alone so much that at least if we have the travel agent with us, then there's somebody there to witness and to maybe I could use the word resonate with us. And feel what we feel.
Yeah. And over time, as people do this resonance work, which really is changing the structure of the relational brain, people begin to have their resonating witness actually enter their dreams. While they are dreaming, they find themselves held by themselves. Oh yeah, it's quite a beautiful process. And to just tie us back into the default mode network, that automatic voice of the brain that's sewing us into our lives, that's the dreaming. That's the same network that's at work. When we're dreaming, we're sewing ourselves into our lives with our dreams.
Right. Oh, interesting. Because, of course, the amygdala and the hippocampus are extremely active during the dream state. They're way more active than the thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, while we're dreaming. You know, I want to go geek out here for a second, Sarah.
Yeah.
In that I've been reading about the thalamus. And my understanding about the thalamus is that is another brain structure, which is right at the center of the brain. It kind of sits on top of the brainstem, and it has neural connections that go throughout the brain. And what I've been understanding is that it takes a lot of our experience, anything that we're sensing, because in any given moment, there's a million sensations that we're ignoring. And the thalamus is, in my understanding, is key to help us pay attention to what's really important and ignore the things that are not so important. And that's a very useful function, but it can get hijacked by all kinds of stories or agreements that another thing that you touch on.
Yeah.
That there's so I'm curious what you know about the thalamus, and am I getting that right? Is that kind of
But I don't know much about the thalamus. I'll put it on my research list.
Yeah, I've just been reading about it, and they say it's associated with the default mode network as well. And like where do we go when we're not really focusing anywhere, and that the thalamus is also responsible for alertness and sleep and the level of attentiveness we have. And so it's a very valuable organ.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few that's actually not, well, they're all paired in the brain. Pretty much all the organs are paired. There's 2 amygdalae maybe, 2 hippocampi, and there's actually 2 thalamuses too, but they're actually so close together. And from what I understand, that they're almost they're basically connected, that they're extremely close together, and the 2 halves work in synchrony, whereas we know the right brain and the left brain, they work in concert too, but they're paying attention to different things.
Yes.
Whereas the thalamus is kind of the unifier in some ways.
It sounds almost like a filter.
Yeah.
It's doing a filtering job for us.
Absolutely. And I often think of young babies when they're first born, they what do they focus on? There's just so much happening. There's feelings, there's sights, there's smells, and just the first, I was going to say the first few months, but really most of our life we're learning what to pay attention to. And I'm starting to appreciate the thalamus and thinking that this is part of what helps us decide what to pay attention to.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And of course we can train that. I do believe that brains are highly neuroplastic, and we can do all kinds of practices like meditation or various spiritual practices, gratitude practices, and awareness practices that helps train our brain to pay attention to the good and not to get all tripped out in the bad things, and
to learn to do resonance for those moments that feel like bad things.
Right, because I've got to watch out for spiritual bypass, which is I'm prone to. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's all good, yes. But actually, sometimes those feelings, especially if they keep coming back, just like a recurring dream, there's something there that needs to be felt or empathized with or sensed. There's something important there.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh. This is wonderful. So there's another phrase that I would like to explore a little bit that I've been reading about on your webpage called alarmed aloneness.
Yeah.
This is something like we were talking about in the dreams, that when something happens where we're traumatized in the dreams, we're alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or we're alone with scary people around us too sometimes. So
it's not just being alone, it's the alarmed part.
Yeah, exactly. And we live in a funny world where scientists describe our nervous system as having the states of fight, flight, and freeze. But that implies that we're only ever upset when we're angry or when we're scared. And it completely leaves out the idea and the understanding that as mammals, we get alarmed when we're left alone. This is sort of the root of that word abandonment, you know, or the pining that happens for us when we lose somebody that we love to death, or to divorce or heartbreak, or to physical moves, and we miss them. I was walking this morning as the sun was coming up, and I remembered a friend of mine who died about 3-4 years ago of cancer, and I just missed her so much. It went through my body like a shiver of pain almost. And that's our alarmed aloneness. It's what babies feel when they're separated from their moms or their mothering people. It doesn't have to be a female person, but when they're separated from the person they most count on, they get upset, and they're not afraid, and they're not angry, although there can be, you know, elements of that. But the major piece of it is, my person is gone.
Yeah. I have no one to mirror me. I have no one to resonate with.
Yeah, and almost like for babies, I'm not whole anymore. Because babies are dyadic, essentially. You know, they're not little individuals. They're little beings in relationship.
That's so true.
And so when I talk now about the nervous system, I actually say fight, flight, alarmed aloneness, and freeze, so that we can underscore that there's this whole other flavor of upset emotion that we rarely touch on. And part of what's happening for us with intrusive memories is that in some way we have been or nightmares, in some way we have been too alone. And the intrusive memory or the nightmare is saying to us, or the bad dream, is saying to us, I have been too alone here. This has been a moment of too much aloneness for me, and it overwhelmed me. And now I need some way to process it. And the default mode network is doing its best by creating the dreams for us. But if the dreams are upsetting, then there's something quite extraordinary that happens when we bring accompaniment to the upset.
So we actually have a caller showed up. So it's a little early, but I'm going to say, if it's okay with you, Sarah, let's turn to the phone. And this is Jaya. Hello, Jaya.
Hi. Sorry, I was calling in early just so I wasn't late.
Oh, no problem. Well, it's wonderful. I always welcome call-ins at the Dream Journal, and thank you for calling, Jaya. What can we do for you?
Yeah,
first of all, where are you calling from? One thing I always like to find out.
I'm currently in Maui, Hawaii. Yeah.
Great. Aloha.
Aloha. Yeah, and so when I heard about Sarah doing this and her doing Resonant on the call, I thought I would bring a recurring dream that I have.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Wonderful. Shall we just dive in?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jaya, what is your recurring dream?
So I often have dreams about water. They're nightmare, and so either my back is up against a wall, like, and big tsunamis are coming over me, and I have to hold my breath and hope that the water subsides before I run out of air, or I'm like, sinking to the bottom of something. And so oftentimes these dreams with the waves, it's like the wave comes over, I hold my breath, and then I'm able to get a little bit of air, and then these giant waves that are like, 10 times my height just come crashing over me. So, yeah, just kind of the energy of these dreams. Wow. It's kind of like a helplessness.
Yeah. So if you and I, Jaya, turn ourselves into beings who can travel into the dream world, and we go to you in this moment where you're holding your breath and the waves are crashing down. And what we need to do is, the very first thing we need to do is to stop the danger so that your brain can actually tell we're there. So does it feel possible to just kind of suspend the wave in place and bring a magical flow of oxygen to Jaya in the experience of being.
So almost like I'm already underwater, but I have access to air.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, yeah. If it's possible, it may not be possible yet, but just check for me.
It feels like 2 steps out of reality, but I can let my brain know that people are coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm always
It may
very
be
alone
that-
in these
Yeah,
dreams.
we may not be able to get oxygen to the dream self yet. So what we'll do is we'll hold our breath with her and come to be right beside her if she's willing. Is she willing for us to come be right beside her in the experience of the wave crashing in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always so alone in these underwater dreams. That someone would be there.
And
I can feel like my body braced. Not
Yeah.
because there's people coming, but because of the energy of the dream.
yeah, and the force of the wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I'm stepping in to be beside you, I feel the way the water is like the force of nature of the water, the size and the force being more than human.
Yeah.
And I feel all of these different streams of the force of the water pulling me away from the wall, battering me, hitting my body. Is it like that for her as well?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's surreal in the way that dreams are. That there's usually somehow I don't go tumbling into it like I would if it were actually a wave. There's always something at my back that keeps me sturdy enough, and it's not like that. But it's nonetheless very terrifying.
Yeah.
Not sure, to not know if I'm going to make it through. But yes, I do feel like that the amount of strength it's taking to hold strong with all these currents.
Yeah. Would we ask her? There are 2 guesses that are coming from me. I would guess: is she terrified and is she exhausted?
Definitely terrified. Definitely unsure if she has what it takes to withstand this.
When you first spoke about the dream, you mentioned helplessness. Yeah. Does she
It's
need...
I can't feel the exhaustion because it's like I can't afford to be exhausted.
Does she need acknowledgement that it's relentless and inexorable?
Yeah. And
What did you say?
Something about danger being named would be nice.
Is it dangerous? Is it dangerous, and is it... I'm also getting the word fatal.
Yeah, oftentimes there's marine animals that show up in that same, it'll be sharks and other things, and it's I also have to evade that at the same time, and it's such an interesting collision of dangerous situations. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you, Jaya, need any acknowledgement that life often feels like this?
It must in moments. I mean, I can think of moments in the past where it has felt that way.
How is it for Jaya that we're with her?
I can feel my body relaxing a little bit, that there's someone there, and that here I am, I'm being offered empathy, and I haven't yet drowned. It's kind of helping. Yeah. Relieving a little bit to be oh yeah, it contextualizes the dream a little bit different, that it's actually a dream. I think.
And is there something about would you like a little acknowledgement that that it's important that we have to be able to breathe, to be able to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the helplessness and the powerlessness feel like the overarching feeling.
Yeah. The helplessness and
Like
the
against a
powerlessness.
large force, like an unstoppable force.
Mm.
And I often do feel like that.
Yeah. And helplessness and powerlessness against an unstoppable force. Yeah.
I feel some sadness. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, a sadness. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see now what's happening with Jaya with us beside her. How's she responding now?
Her body's less rigid. It's like it's still scary. It's still on top, but I feel like her body kind of just melting just a little bit, like almost like what she really wants to be able to do is be in the fetal position and hold herself rather than brace herself.
Yeah. Would she feel protected enough with us with her? If we could create a protection for her, that she could do that.
Yeah, I just imagined almost like a bubble going around her, so she's still under the water, but it's hard enough to
protect
like almost
her.
like being in a fishbowl instead.
Oh, beautiful.
Or like a fishbowl inside an ocean.
The image for me is a womb, of being protected in a womb.
Yeah. Yeah, so she can just collapse and feel her hopelessness without that kind of bracing.
Oh, right,
nice.
that bracing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not needed right now.
Yeah, and that feeling reminds me of the sinking that often happens in the other water dreams where I just sink to the bottom and there's nothing I can do. So it has that kind of energetic body. Yeah.
It makes me want to sink with her, just so that she's got a sense of being accompanied in the sinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I can feel the little edges of the exhaustion.
Oh, good, because it is exhausting. It is exhausting to be up against forces that are so like they don't even notice that we're there. Ocean waves don't even notice that there are people that they're overpowering. They're just doing what they do. It's sort of a
yeah, that brings some tears somehow. Like if I apply it yeah.
Jaya, how are you doing? How are you? How was it to share this with us?
Yeah, it was really interesting to have accompaniment in it. Because these dreams, I'm always all by myself.
Right.
And so just sort of recognizing, and this last line Sarah just said about waves, just that they don't know that people are there. They're just doing what they do.
So Jaya, and I need to go to a break here, and I wonder if you want to stay on the line and we can talk to you some more on the other side?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm so glad you called in.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. You are listening to The Dream Journal, and this is live here with Sarah Peyton, and on the line is Jaya, and my name is Catherine Bell. You're listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org.
This is the story of how we begin to remember. This is the powerful pulsing of love in the vein. After the dream of falling and calling your name out. These are the roots of rhythm and the roots of rhythm remain.
This is the Dream Journal, and we have another line open. We'll speak with Jaya a little more, but if someone else wants to call, the number is 831-900-5773. So we have Sarah Peyton here from Seattle, I believe, and Jaya, who's calling in from Hawaii. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So there's been, a chance for things to settle in a little, Jaya, and I would like to just check in with how are you and your feelings around these really disturbing dreams that you've been having.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to have this moment of kind of settling in the in the womb or the fishbowl or the whatever it is. And usually in these dreams there is sort of like a magnificence to the ocean life at the same time as feeling like overwhelmed and frightened and unsure I'm going to make it through. But there's always like at least a couple moments where I'm able to see the beauty of this underwater world. And so I can, in this moment, it's like I can just lay there in the exhaustion and just kind of watch these things go by without them posing a threat to me in any way.
Even some awareness of the beauty is arising in you.
Yeah, I mean, there's oftentimes that kind of element to it where like I get like a little aerial view or something like that, but this time being kind of under the water with accompaniment, I get to experience that. Yeah.
Sarah, is there anything you want to add in here? Anything?
Oh, it's such an honor,
Yeah,
I think, to like begin to step into what other people get to share with us and to be able to just be with them and not have to make it any different than it is, not believe that we're supposed to be fixing their dream or making it different. Or, I mean, of course with dreams, often the intensity is so great that I really want to be able to fix it. And a lot of times, even more than when I'm working with memory, when I'm working with dreams, I really kind of have to give myself accompaniment for how much I don't want this person to be having a difficult time. And but the staying with it is such a beautiful and radical and countercultural act. In a world where we so often try to manage and fix and make sure nobody ends up with any feelings. Feelings are so beautiful and important. The sadness that comes, the ability to notice the exhaustion, the ability to be with it, and the helplessness, the powerlessness. So important to name these things. Often when I work with people, they don't even let themselves name hopelessness or helplessness. I'll say, "Oh gosh, do you feel hopeless?" And they're like, "I never feel hopeless."
Yeah.
So I believe we're doing great and beautiful work when we're just with each other.
Right. And just staying
Thank you so
with
much.
it. Yeah, thank you, Jaya.
Thank you, Jaya.
I'm really feel honored that you shared those dreams, those very intense and beautiful dreams with us. And hope we could help you feel a little bit accompanied on your journey with the dreams.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really helped to name those elements and the feelings that were a part of these recurring dreams. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Is there anything else that you wanna say, Jaya, or ask or share with us?
Nope, that's
Okay.
I'm okay right now. Yeah, thank you so much. I really
Fabulous.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, this was the recurring dreams that we were just talking about.
Yeah. And what is the default mode network, bringing to us with our recurring dreams? What has not been accompanied is always the question. And how do, another question I had, you asked about resonant language earlier. And with resonant language, what we notice is, for example, that metaphor and poetry are are types of language that allow us to accompany without having to fix or change. What's so fascinating with dreams is that they, in a way, already are the metaphor that our brain is bringing to us about what needs to be understood. And it was such a beautiful moment when you mentioned, when Jaya had mentioned sadness, and you caught it and reflected it as we were with her.
I often feel as a dream coach that part of my job or my gift is to be able to reflect back to people the things that they say, because sometimes they'll just kind of skip right past it, but I'm like, that was pretty amazing what you just said, and let me just bring that back, and that was from you. Right.
Very beautiful.
And
that's the accompaniment, isn't it?
I see. Yeah.
You as a dream coach are accompanying your people.
Right. Absolutely. And that's, the gift that we can give, and just to share with another person. I mean, I think that's part of why just telling your dream to somebody else can be a wonderful thing, even if the other person, is just listening and nodding, and that you're still being accompanied. And it's often better to get just the listening and the nodding versus, well, I think it means X, Y, Z.
Right.
And so even just writing in your journal is a way of accompanying yourself to some degree, writing down the dream in your journal and going, okay, this is from me, this is true, that I honor this.
Just in the last couple of nights, I've been asking my dreaming self to bring me images of beauty.
Ooh.
Because my dreaming self, I'm a bit of a workaholic, so my dreaming self talks to me about that. Kind of keeps working all night long. I'm like, I don't want to work all night long. Can you bring me some beauty? And I had this marvelous dream where there were layers of clouds that covered the moon, and the way the layers of clouds covered the moon made exquisite shadow dancing in front of the moon. Wow. And it was so nourishing.
What a wonderful incubation. Bring me something beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Sarah Peyton, do you have any upcoming events or classes that you'd like to share with our listeners, and maybe talk a little bit about your many offerings on your webpage?
Oh, thank you so much. We're just starting an annual masterclass series in constellation work that we'll be doing online. That's about boundaries and edges, and that's kind of an exciting thing. That's on my website, sarahpeyton.com, and spelled SARAHPEYTON, like Peyton Manning. And then I do like small evening and morning offerings that take neuroscience concepts and integrate them either with resonant language. The one we did last week was white fragility, the neuroscience of white fragility. And then sometimes I do constellation offerings. So things like how does attachment show up in constellation work? Constellation work is almost like embodied dreaming. Where you put your question into a circle, and different people in the circle take on different elements of the question and move with it in real time.
Is that something that you do online as well these days?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
We do that online. We've been Catherine Revoir developed a wonderful way of kind of using animated drawings that grow and move and turn in the constellation field, and different people are different elements in the drawing, and they tell the drawer how to move what's happening on the screen.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. And to bring that together with relational neuroscience to learn more about trauma and to learn more about the way that we make these unconscious agreements or unconscious contracts is it's just it's like getting to enter a world of magic. I heard a beautiful quote. It was it's disappeared. Magic is something like, magic is to be a living soul in a living universe.
I love that. So, Sarah Peyton, do you have any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners?
Oh, just gratitude to you for holding a resonant space for folks in their dreams.
Yeah.
It's such a healing work.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So, Sarah Peyton, it has been a fabulous show together. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, take care. And maybe I'll be in touch. It seems like we might have more things to talk about.
Wonderful. That would be so fun.
All right. And good luck on the release of your new book coming out in May.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next week, our guest will be Dr. Katja Valley, who is a research scientist in the Netherlands who studies the evolutionary aspects of dreaming and its neurological functions. Listen live next Saturday at 10 a.m. or catch the podcast replay, which will be released on the Monday following the show. Also, a new round of my Experiencing Your Dreams workshop series is starting this Monday. Learn how to work with your own dreams in a supportive community of like-minded dreamers. This month, the topic is dreams and good feelings. Workshops are Mondays, 3 to 5 p.m., and are also recorded for you to listen to later. Contact me if you have questions or if you'd like to join.
Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that
I am Catherine Bell, and this has been the Dream Journal. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com, and you can email me at Catherine@ksquid, that's KATHERINE, at ksqd.org. Please do contact me for a free introductory dream consultation. If you like the show, please tell a friend about us or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I'd like to thank my program assistant, Max Deaton, and our creative musician, Rick Kleffel, who once again created for us an original composition for our ambient music today. And I'd like to thank my guest, Sarah Peyton, and our call-in, Jaya. And thank you to all the generous donors who support this station. K-Squid is 100% listener-supported. Donations are always welcome at ksqd.org. When you wake up tomorrow morning, take a minute to look within. Do you remember a dream? Write it down and bring it to the next Dream Journal. I am Catherine Bell, and you are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz.
Close my eyes again. Climbed aboard the Dreamweaver train.